Hello everybody, in today's video we are going to see the call stack in JavaScript. So I'm going to open the DevTools, I'm going to undock this and I'm going to maximize this view here. I'm going to go to sources and then I'm going to create a new snippet. In this option, let's call this call stack. Let's use this one. So the call stack is a mechanism JavaScript uses to keep track of which functions are running and to keep track of that order. We say that data structure is called a LIFO, last in, first out. This is similar to, for example, when we have an array and we have some elements here and we use the method push. This is going to push any element to the last position of the array. For example, if I push 6, it's going to add the number 6 to this array. And if I pop, for example, one element, it is going to pop the last element. So it would be similar to this. Last in, first out. So let's create here an example. I'm going to create a function called 1. And this function is going to console log, for example, 1. It's going to log 1 to the console. We can create another function here called 2. And we can console that log 2. We could also run this function, the first function, 1, like this. And what will happen, just to make sure I already saved the file, so just to make sure this is working, I'm going to print something here. So to run the script, I need to press this button. And there we go, we have the output 1. And what I'm going to do right now is to add the second function inside the first function. So I'm going to call 2, but let me make sure this is lowercase. So let's call this function here. Let's save the file. And the output would be 1, 2, because we are calling this function right here. And to see what's happening in the call stack, I'm going to use the debugging tool. So let's pause the execution and let's hit enter. So my script started. It already read this function and this function, and we can see also the scope here. We see anonymous because that's our first execution context. The global context is pushed to the call stack. And here in the scope, we can see the scope global, which is in a browser, it is window, and in another environment would be another thing. For example, in Node.js, it would be literally global. And these are some methods and properties we can interact with from the global object of the browser. All right, let's continue the next step for the script. So I'm going to press this button. Right now we are on line 10, and just for now let me clear the console. So the next step is to run this function, and it jumped here to read the function. Right now we are on line 2, and it is going to log something to the console. If we run this, we should see 1 to the console, and now we are going to execute or invoke the second function, which is this one, and this one is going to jump here and execute whatever is inside this function. Right now we are going to log 2 to the console. Let's hit next step. Now our function has finished, and if we click next, the function, it returns to the function 1, and this function is finished, and that will be it. Our script is already done. So let's go back and do this again, keeping track of the call stack. So let's open the call stack here. I'm going to run the code, and there we go. The first thing pushed to the call stack is anonymous. Then the next step is going to run the function 1, and it is going to be pushed to the call stack. Then it is going to read in the second function, and the second function is going to be pushed to the call stack. We click next, the function 2 has finished, and the next step is to pop off this function from the call stack. There we go, the function 1 is already finished, so the same is going to happen to this function. And finally, once the script has ended, the global execution context is going to pop as well from the call stack, and our call stack is going to be empty. Right now it is opening this because I'm using Brave, but it should be empty now. And that's basically how the call stack works. Right now we are testing just synchronous functions. So if we are testing we are running asynchronous functions, we need to keep in mind that there is another mechanism for that, which is called the event loop, the task queue, the micro task queue, where JavaScript is going to run asynchronous code. Let's remember that JavaScript is single-threaded, so it means it can run one thing at a time, as we saw here in this code. Once all the synchronous code is done, we are going to move on to the asynchronous code. Could be an API call, or a promise, a set timeout, set interval, or any other browser API. And that's it for this video. I hope it was useful for you, and see you on the next one.